only partially developed. How unusual that was. There wasn't any other kid like me in our area. When I was 16 years old, I was the captain on the varsity football team as a sophomore. And that same year, I began to be affected by a rare form of muscular atrophy. Isn't that unusual? That one red-headed, freckle-faced kid from Mississippi would have two things so unusual and rare. Glenda and I had been married for 13 years. We had intended to have children, but we were always traveling, and it never seemed the appropriate time. But after 13 years, it dawned on us that if we don't get started, we're going to be Abraham and Sarah. So we began to pray, and Glenda conceived. And in 1981, on April the 2nd, our son Joshua was born. Joshua grew to be 6 feet 7 inches tall. He weighed 220 pounds, not an ounce of fat. He would pick his father up out of the wheelchair and just waltz out across the den. He would pick me up and set me on the four-wheeler, strap me down, and away we would go. He would set me up in my deer stand and drag my deer out of the woods. 8 years ago, Joshua was involved in an automobile accident, and among other very serious injuries, he incurred a C5 spinal cord injury. And today, he is quadriplegic and is very, very limited. Glenda and I had traveled to Memphis that Saturday evening, where I would preach in 3 churches for the next 10 days. At 4 o'clock that morning, the call came that we should come immediately to the Catholic Hospital in Little Rock. Our son had been injured seriously in an automobile accident. Can you imagine the stress on my wife getting us up at 4 o'clock in the morning and driving a motor coach 140 miles under those circumstances, not knowing what we would find when we arrived there? When we did arrive at 7:30 that morning, Dr. David Redding met us and informed us of Josh's condition. He said, "I cannot tell you that Josh will live. He is suspended between life and death. If he does live, I must tell you that he will be quadriplegic and he will be very, very limited." We were devastated. We were crushed. We were in disbelief that this could have happened to us. As you might imagine, our family and our friends wrestled with these tough questions about the providence of God. How can this be? Here's what we discovered experientially. We discovered that what we had believed and what we had taught others to believe was true. That God is in control. And we discovered further that the only way you can believe in providence is to believe in it all of the time. That's the only way that it works. If they had asked us, we would have said, take Joshua to the Baptist hospital. I are a Baptist. And besides that, The Baptist Hospital in Little Rock gives a discount to the Baptist preachers. Okay? And Granny Miller would have said, don't be dumb all your life. But the ER was packed, and because of prior arrangements, they met flighted Josh from the scene of the accident to the Catholic hospital. I'd never been to the St. Vincent's Hospital before, but we met angels unawares while we were there for 5 months. The second day we were there, a tall, attractive lady approached my wife with a gift basket. She introduced herself as Marilyn Mansfield, the wife of Steve, who was the CEO of the Catholic hospital system in Arkansas. She said, Steve is out of the state, but he has sent me to tell you that Joshua is going to have the best care possible in our region. She said, you and I have mutual friends. And she mentioned Dr. P.J. Scott. When Dr. Scott was called to preach in West Tennessee, he pastored a small country church out from Martin, Tennessee. And Marilyn's family attended that church, and she, a 12-year-old, heard the gospel and was converted, and she had maintained a relationship with the Scotts. And they had heard about Josh, and they called her. She said, would you mind if I go to Josh's room to meet him? It was not visitation time at the ICU, but when you're the CEO's wife, you can get around that sort of thing. And this lady, a stranger to us, took Joshua's hand in hers, raised it up, and commenced to sing. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot thou hast taught me to say, it is well